Elena Ramirez, a dedicated nurse, was drowning, not in water, but in a sea of mounting bills, her heart aching for a chronically ill son, Mateo, whose laughter was becoming a fragile treasure she fought daily to protect. Each shift at City General Hospital was a battle against her own bone-deep exhaustion, a desperate attempt to keep their small world afloat, a world with fear the next medical bill loomed larger than any monster under the bed. Then she was assigned to room 307, to the comatose, dying billionaire Alistair Blackwood, a man the world seemed to have forgotten and doctors had all but given up on. Elena, however, saw not a lost cause, but a lonely soul adrift in an endless silence. She spoke to him, cared for him with a tenderness born of her own quiet struggles, never imagining he could hear her, or that his awakening, if it ever came, would trigger a chain of events so astounding it would leave her not just speechless, but utterly transformed, rewriting the very fabric of her existence. Elena's life was a tapestry woven with love, resilience, and the constant, gnawing worry that it could all unravel. Mornings began before dawn, the soft glow of a nightlight illuminating Mateo's sleeping face, his small chest rising and falling with breaths that sometimes came too hard. She'd kiss his forehead, whispering promises of a better day, before tiptoeing out to prepare for her long shift. The bus ride was her brief respite, a moment to stare out at the awakening city and mentally tally the bills, rent, utilities, Mateo's ever-increasing medication costs. Just yesterday, a letter from Mateo's specialist had arrived, recommending a new, experimental treatment, promising, but with a price tag that made Elena's stomach clench. Hope and despair wrestled within her. Her nurse's salary, though earned with every fiber of her being, stretched thin, always threatening to snap. Their tiny apartment, though clean and filled with Mateo's bright crayon drawings of superheroes and smiling suns, felt like it was closing in on them, the walls echoing her silent pleas for a miracle. Yet, when Elena stepped onto the polished floors of City General, she tucked her worries away, smoothed her uniform, and donned a smile that reached her tired, kind eyes. Her patients knew her as the nurse who always had an extra moment, a gentle touch, a word of genuine comfort. She didn't just see charts and symptoms. She saw people, scared, in pain, longing for connection. Mrs. Henderson in 302, recovering from hip surgery, always brightened when Elena helped her with her hair. Young Danny in pediatrics, battling leukemia, only eat his soup if Nurse Elena made airplane noises. It was this deep well of empathy that defined her, a quiet strength that often left her depleted by day's end, only to be refilled by the sight of Mateo's trusting face. She often wondered if anyone saw her struggle, the weariness behind her capable demeanor. But there was no time for self-pity. Mateo needed her strong. The call came during a rare lull in her shift. "Elena, can you come to the private wing? We have a new admission, high profile, needs experienced care." The charge nurse's tone was serious. The patient, she soon learned, was Alistair Blackwood. The name whispered through the hospital corridors was one of immense, almost mythical wealth, but also a profound reclusion. He'd been found alone in his vast, silent mansion after suffering a catastrophic stroke. Now he lay in the most expensive suite in the hospital, surrounded by state-of-the-art machines, yet utterly alone, unresponsive. A stern-faced legal representative, Mr. Abernathy, was the only visitor, his appearances brief and transactional. The prognosis was grim. The neurologist spoke in hushed tones of minimal brain activity and unlikely recovery. Most staff treated room 307 with a kind of detached, efficient reverence, perhaps intimidated by the unspoken weight of the Blackwood fortune, or simply resigned to the inevitable. But when Elena first saw him, a frail, pale figure lost in an enormous bed, his face etched with loneliness that transcended wealth, her heart didn't see a billionaire. It saw a man in desperate need, a soul teetering on the edge. This was an opportunity for advancement. It was a call to her deepest sense of duty, a chance to offer warmth in the cold face of despair. The initial days were a blur of medical protocols. Elena meticulously monitored Mr. Blackwood's vitals, administered for medications, and turned his frail body every 2 hours to prevent the cruel onset of bed sores. She performed these tasks with the utmost professionalism, but she offered something more, something unprescribed. In the long, quiet stretches of her shifts, especially during the hushed stillness of the night, when the rest of the hospital seemed to sleep, Elena would talk to him. Her voice was a soft, calming presence in the sterile room. "Good evening, Mr. Blackwood," she began, sponging his cool forehead. "It's raining tonight, a gentle kind of rain. Mateo loves the sound of it on our window." She'd tell him about her day, about Mateo's latest fascination with dinosaurs, about the funny stray cat that sometimes visited her apartment fire escape. She described the changing colors of the leaves in the park visible from his window. She knew, on a rational level, that he was unlikely to hear or comprehend her words. Her colleague, Carol, a seasoned nurse with pragmatic heart, gently advised her, "Don't pour too much of yourself into this one, Elena. We see these cases. It's best to guard your heart." Elena would offer a small, wistful smile. "Perhaps," she'd reply softly, "but it feels like the right thing to do. And who knows, maybe a little piece of him is still listening." She'd adjust his blankets, ensuring he was comfortable, sometimes humming a soft lullaby her own mother used to sing. One afternoon, she found a worn copy of The Prophet in the staff lounge, left behind by a grateful patient's family. She began reading passages aloud to Mr. Blackwood, her voice filling the silence with words of beauty, resilience, and the interconnectedness of all things. She'd often stay a few minutes past her shift's end, just to finish a chapter, the fatigue in her legs a dull ache, but her spirit oddly lightened by this one-sided conversation. It was a small sacrifice, unnoticed by anyone but her, yet it felt important. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. Alistair Blackwood remained a silent statue in his bed, the rhythmic sigh of the ventilator the most prominent sound in the room. Elena's quiet vigil continued. She brought in a small, vibrant sunflower Mateo had painted in art class, placing it on the bedside table where the morning light would catch it. "Mateo made this for you, Mr. Blackwood," she explained, her voice gentle. "He says sunflowers always face the light, and he hopes you find your way to the light, too." She began to notice the subtle things, the way his brow would seem to smooth slightly when she spoke of Mateo's innocent joys, a faint, almost imperceptible tightening of his fingers when she recounted a particularly funny story. Or was she imagining it? The doctors remained pessimistic, their reports clinically detached. She overheard them discussing options with Mr. Abernathy, long-term care facilities, the grim logistics of managing a life sustained only by machines. A fierce protectiveness flared in Elena. This man, whom she'd never known in health, had become her patient in the deepest sense of the word. She felt a profound responsibility not just for his physical well-being, but for his dignity, for the spark of humanity she refused to believe was extinguished. One evening, after a particularly distressing phone call from Mateo's doctor about a setback in his breathing, Elena felt her own reserves crumbling. She sat by Mr. Blackwood's bedside, the weight of the world on her shoulders. Unconsciously, she took his limp hand. "Oh, Mr. Blackwood," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "It's so hard sometimes. Mateo, he's such a fighter, but I worry so much. I wish things were easier for him." She squeezed his hand gently, lost in her own sorrow. And then she felt a faint yet undeniable pressure in return. Her head snapped up, his eyelids remained closed, his breathing unchanged. Had she imagined it? No, it had been there. A tiny, fragile connection. A flicker of hope ignited in her weary heart, fueling her resolve to continue her quiet ministry. The morning it happened began like any other. The sun was just beginning to paint the sky in hues of rose and gold as Elena made her rounds. She entered room 307 with her usual soft greeting. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day." Mateo is very excited. It's show and tell at school, and he's taking his favorite dinosaur, Rexy. She began her routine checks, her movements efficient yet tender, as she was adjusting his pillows, fluffing them just so. She noticed a slight tremor in his eyelids. Her breath hitched. She leaned closer, her heart beginning a frantic drum against her ribs. "Mr. Blackwood?" she whispered, hardly daring to hope. Slowly, almost painfully, his eyelids fluttered, then lifted. Hazy, unfocused blue eyes stared blankly for a moment, then gradually, miraculously cleared. They found hers. Weak, confused, but undeniably aware. A dry, rasping sound escaped his lips. Elena's training kicked in. She quickly moistened a swab and touched it to his lips. He swallowed, a visible effort, and then his voice, a mere wisp of sound, hoarse from disuse, uttered a single word that sent shivers down her spine. "Elena?" She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. He knew her. He remembered her name. The hospital erupted. Doctors rushed in. Nurses crowded the doorway. A buzz of disbelief and excitement rippling through the wing. Neurologists performed assessments, their faces masks of astonishment. "It's remarkable," one of them stammered, looking from his chart to the now conscious Alistair Blackwood. "Truly unexpected." As Mr. Blackwood slowly regained his bearings over the ensuing days, his voice growing stronger, his mind sharper, one request remained constant. "I want Nurse Ramirez." He would track her movements with an unnerving intensity, his gaze filled with an emotion Elena couldn't quite decipher. He remembered. He had been there in the darkness, and she had been his light. Alistair Blackwood's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. The keen intellect that had built a global empire began to reassert itself, piece by painstaking piece. Physical therapy was arduous, speech therapy frustrating, but he met each challenge with a newfound determination. And through it all, Elena was his requested anchor. He began to ask her to stay longer after her nursing duties were complete, not just to discuss his progress, but to talk. He wanted to know about her life, about Mateo, about her dreams and her struggles. Elena, ever professional, was initially reserved, but his genuine, almost vulnerable interest slowly chipped away at her guard. He listened with profound attentiveness she found deeply moving. One afternoon, as she was helping him with some prescribed exercises, he paused, his gaze direct and searching. "Elena," he said, his voice gaining its old resonance, "all those months when I was lost, I heard you." Elena's breath caught. You did." He nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. It was like being submerged in a vast, dark ocean. Everything was distant, distorted. But your voice, Elena, was a beacon. You spoke of your son, of sunshine, of poetry. You never treated me like I was already gone. You gave me hope, even when I had none for myself. A tear escaped and traced a warm path down Elena's cheek. I didn't want you to feel alone," she managed, her voice trembling. Mr. Blackwood's own eyes glistened. He reached out his hand, steadier now, gently grasping hers. "My dear girl," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you saved more than my life. You saved my soul." A few days later, Elena had to step out to take an urgent call from Mateo's school. His teacher was concerned. Mateo had suffered a significant breathing attack, and his emergency inhaler wasn't providing enough relief. Elena's voice, though she tried to keep it steady, was laced with barely concealed panic as she promised to arrange another specialist appointment, her mind racing with how she would pay for it. She ended the call, her face pale, her shoulders slumped. She didn't realize Mr. Blackwood, sitting in his wheelchair near the partially open door of his room, had overheard every word, his expression unreadable. When she returned, attempting a brave smile, he simply looked at her, a deep, thoughtful understanding in his eyes. The next morning, Mr. Abernathy, Alistair Blackwood's formidable lawyer, arrived, but this time his usual brusque demeanor was softened. He requested a private meeting with Elena in Mr. Blackwood's suite. Her stomach did a nervous flip. What could this be about? Had she overstepped? Mr. Blackwood was seated by the window, looking out at the city, but he turned as she entered, a warm, almost fatherly smile on his face. Mr. Abernathy cleared his throat. "Ms. Ramirez," he began, his voice unusually gentle. "Mr. Blackwood has instructed me to make certain arrangements, reflecting his profound gratitude for the exceptional care and compassion you have shown him." Elena's heart pounded. "Firstly," Mr. Abernathy continued, consulting a folder, "Mr. Blackwood has established a fully endowed trust fund. This trust will cover, in perpetuity, all of Mateo's medical expenses, any treatments, specialist consultations, medications, or adaptive equipment he may ever require. There will be no financial cap." Elena swayed, reaching for the back of a chair to steady herself. Her vision blurred. Mateo, all his medical needs covered? It was unthinkable. I can't. "Mr. Blackwood, this is too much," she stammered, tears now flowing freely. "Elena," Alistair said softly, his voice firm but kind. "You can and you will. You gave my life back to me. You spoke of hope when there was only darkness. This is but a small measure what that meant." But Mr. Abernathy held up a hand. He wasn't finished. "Furthermore, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Blackwood is launching the Blackwood Foundation for Compassionate Care. Its mission will be to support patients and families facing overwhelming medical crises and promote empathetic practices within the healthcare industry. He has personally endowed it with a substantial sum." He paused, looking directly at Elena. "Mr. Blackwood would be deeply honored if you would accept the position of executive director of this foundation. The role comes with a generous salary, full benefits, and the resources to truly make a difference." Elena stared, utterly dumbfounded. Her, a nurse, to run a major foundation? The room seemed to tilt. The weight of years of financial worry, of fear for Mateo's future, lifted from her shoulders so suddenly she felt dizzy with relief. "You embody the very spirit of this foundation, Elena," Mr. Blackwood said, his eyes shining. "Your kindness, your unwavering belief in the human spirit, who better to lead this charge?" Elena finally found her voice, though it was choked with emotion. I don't know what to say." "Say, yes, my dear," Alistair urged, his smile radiant. Through a fresh wave of joyous tears, Elena nodded, a watery, incredulous laugh escaping her. "Yes," she whispered, then stronger. "Yes? Thank you. Oh, thank you." Elena's world didn't just change. It was reborn. Mateo thrived under the care of the best specialists, his laughter echoing through their new, sunlit home, a modest house with a little green yard, perfect for flying kites and dreaming big dreams, a place where the air seemed cleaner, his breaths easier. Elena, stepping into her role as executive director, found her calling amplified. Her first-hand experiences, her deep empathy, and her quiet, determined leadership allowed the Blackwood Foundation to touch countless lives. They funded research, provided grants for struggling families, developed training programs that infused hospitals with a renewed sense of compassionate patient advocacy. Alistair Blackwood, no longer recluse, became a vibrant force in his own foundation, his eyes alight with purpose. He cherished his role as an honorary grandfather to Matteo, sharing stories and wisdom, his own life immeasurably enriched. Elena often found herself pausing, looking at Matteo's bright, healthy face, or signing off on a grant that would ease another family's burden, and she would be transported back to the hushed quiet of room 307. She had offered her simple human kindness with no thought of reward, driven only by the unwavering belief that every soul deserves comfort, every life deserves a voice. And in return, a miracle had unfolded, a testament to profound, often unseen power of empathy. Her story became a quiet inspiration, a whisper reminder that even the smallest acts offered from a pure heart can ripple outwards, creating waves of goodness that can change the world, one speechless moment of gratitude at a time.